I gave you 4 questions that I was focused on the other night. I'm going to give you 4 more tonight. Big transfer portal questions. Now, this includes guys who have already moved. For example, at Auburn, they essentially had to just import new offensive and defensive lines. Not entirely, but they had to replace a lot. There was so much attrition on the O-line and D-line. They brought in 6 guys, I think, out of the top 100, just in the transfer portal rankings. 5 of them were O-linemen, and 1 of them was a defensive lineman, and I'm counting a tight end with the O-line, by the way. So they made it very obvious. They brought in a running back, too. They made it very obvious where they needed help. I guess I should say it was obvious where they needed help, and it was obvious to them. So they went out and got some help there. We think they've already started spring practice over there, we know. And what I assume is there is a certain percentage of just quick switch. Just turn on the light switch because it's Hugh Freeze, because it's his offense, because I happen to think Robbie Ashford is a pretty good fit at quarterback for what they want to do, and because they still have the post-spring portal window to maybe go pluck 1 or 2 more names. There's a certain percentage better offensively I just think they'll be this year. That goes without saying, although I said it. But the follow-up there is you're nothing in the SEC without at least being average on the line of scrimmage. You're not really anything. And that's before depth concerns hit you. You can have quality depth concerns out of the gate, but you and I both know going through a league schedule in that conference, you're also going to have injury depth concerns. And so I know that every summer we enter preview magazine season, and you'll, sure enough, if you live down in, let's say Fort Mitchell, Alabama, you'll probably open up a preview magazine and you'll familiarize yourself with all these new portal additions, and you'll look at the depth chart and you'll say, if, and you'll paint yourself this picture where everyone's healthy and everyone plays 12 games and everyone plays 60 snaps per game. If all that happens, we could be pretty good, and you'll be right. And then reality will hit, and no one ever has it go that injury-free. So that's on down the road a little ways. First off, let's see what they turn into just offensively in general. How about Oklahoma? I did not know that they were this bad at rushing the passer last year. I knew they were bad. I did not know that they only had 26 sacks total last year. That was tied for 64th in FBS. Got to be better there. They've made a concerted effort to be better. They had no player with more than 5 sacks last year. Entire team, no player had more than 5. So they got 2 of the top pass rushers out of the portal. Deshaun McCullough, 6'5", 225. He had 32 solos and 4 sacks last year in Indiana. Jesse, I want to say he was a freshman last year. Is that true? He was a true freshman last year. So there are a lot of folks in the industry who think he's just scratched the surface of what he could do. And then Rondell, hit me with it, Jesse. Bothroyd. We struggled mightily with the last name earlier today. See, some of you think I butcher names phonetically just because I'm not paying attention. Jesse flashcarded Rondell's name to me, and I had no problem with the first name. The last name, good thing it's only March. I still have work to do. I will tell you this, though. He got 6 sacks as a defensive tackle at Wake Forest last year, so they imported 2 really, really good guys. And then also Devin Sears from Texas State, just to add defensive line depth. Same thing we just said about Hugh Freeze and Auburn. Applies to Oklahoma defensively. Does it not? I would think it does. They were bad defensively last year, to not put too fine a point on it. So there's a certain amount of improvement that I expect just because the calendar flips year 1 to year 2. How big, how drastic is the improvement? Now that's what God invented spring for. Michigan. Instead of writing a position group, I just wrote Michigan and everywhere. It's not just an underrated song from Fleetwood Mac. It's also where they added help. Now, some areas a little bit more than others, but unlike some of these teams, there was no gaping hole. There was no place where you looked at Michigan and there was this big blinking red light, warning, danger, danger. They were number 5, or they're number 5 in terms of returning production. Florida State's number 1, by the way. Can you imagine how frequently that stat is going to be thrown in your face in August from people who just showed back up after reading a preview magazine and thinking they're telling you something you don't know? We will have known for months. Michigan did add playmakers and depth on the offensive line. Ernest Hausman was a linebacker at Nebraska. Number 2 in the portal, I think it is position. Ladarius Henderson, an offensive tackle out of Arizona State. Second team all Pac-12 last year. Very versatile, cross-trained him, can play at virtually every position on the offensive line. You can clearly tell. When someone says virtually every position, it normally just means the kid hasn't played center. That's normally what it means. They got a tight end, they got another OT, they got a center. The average player rating for the kids they got out of the portal is 90.7. So the reason I tell you that is if you just look at Michigan's portal class, I think it's ranked in the mid-teens. So you may say, that's not all that great. They went and got what they wanted. They didn't have many needs. They just went and plucked what they wanted, and they were selective. They were not going to live or die based on what they did in the portal. So they went and got a kid that has an average player rating of 90.7. That's really, really good. Also, UCLA, Chip Kelly got himself a new contract extension I saw. UCLA, as we sit here right now, 104th returning production on offense. And that's because they lost some really good players. Quarterback, running back, number 1 wide receiver. So what did they do? Boom, boom, boom. Went and got 3 of them. Just fill those voids. Apples to apples. That's seamlessly how it's going to happen for Chip Kelly. I kid, kind of. But they went and got Colin Schlee. And they also have Dante Moore, who's a 5-star quarterback just coming in traditionally, if you want to call his recruitment traditional. He's going to be a true freshman out of high school. That's what's traditional about it. So Colin Schlee could end up starting for them. If he doesn't, it'll be for the same reasons that maybe Dylan Gabriel doesn't start this year at Oklahoma. It's just because the true freshman Jackson Arnold was that good. Well, at UCLA, if Colin Schlee doesn't start, it's just because Dante Moore was that good. But they got themselves a very solid insurance policy there from Kent State, because who stayed at Kent State? Also, Carson Steele, running back from Ball State. J. Michael Sturdivant, wide receiver from Cal. They got some good players. Now, again, they have to hit the lottery in terms of injury luck, but most teams do that don't recruit in the top 5 or so nationally in terms of traditional recruiting rankings. He was a freshman All-American. Stewart was a freshman All-American at Cal last year. So they went and got themselves some good players. I have said several times over the past couple of months, and apparently confused some of you because you DM me asking me what I mean, that I think the sport has come to Chip Kelly more so in recent years than it ever had before. And you say, what do you mean? What do you mean come to Chip Kelly? He's been here forever. He was at Oregon. He went to the NFL. He's come back. He's been there several years. I'm not talking about him being new. I'm saying that his style is such that Chip Kelly's never been a guy who is known to pound the pavement and battle the Georgias and Clemsons and Texases of the world for the number 1 recruits in the country. He has, in fact, prided himself on not needing to do that. I mean, Oregon rose to prominence, and the guy had 3 stars littered all over his roster, and only then did they start to attract more national high-caliber players. Well, then people caught up to Chip Kelly a little bit, and it turned out that he was no longer able to slap you on the back of the head with a bunch of 3 stars. He was going to need some racehorses, and he didn't necessarily have that. And so the thought was, comes back to UCLA, it doesn't immediately explode, maybe the game's passed him by. Then the game changed. And all of a sudden, you can pay kids coming out of high school. Dante Moore, for example. And there's nothing wrong with it. And all of a sudden, you can let kids go to another school and play for 2 or 3 years and sharpen themselves and then say, hey, are you tired of Muncie, Indiana? Would you like to come and play football in California for a year? Huh? Would you like to do that? You ever seen a palm tree before? Would you like to come out here? And you can do it. It's called the transfer portal. Chip Kelly is living his best life right now as a college football coach, and he's like decades into his career. That's what I mean when I say the game has come to Chip Kelly. If you just, it's the opposite of the strategy Meemaw used to tell me. Meemaw said, you want something, go get it. Well, I'm telling Chip Kelly, you want something, just sit still until it comes to you. And that's exactly what college football has done. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't leave yet. Don't leave yet. Make sure you like the video and please subscribe to the channel. Not just for me, that's how we keep this entire thing free.